You know who's the greatest Briton of all time?
I believe you're going to tell me.
John Burke.
Mr. Peter Bone. Mr. Peter Bone. Mr. Peter, Mr. Peter, Mr. Peter Bone. Mr. Peter, Mr. Peter, Mr. Peter Bone. Mr. Peter, Mr. Peter, Mr. Peter, Mr. Peter Bone. Mr. Peter Bone. Mr. Peter Bone.
Bro! Anyway, turns out Mr. Peter Bone should have been keeping his fucking bone to himself.
True. Yeah, Mr. Peter Boner, more like. Hey-oh.
True. In the Tory speedrun attempt to challenge the record set by the Catholic Church as the largest sex pestering in the world, another one has been exposed.
It's exposed in more ways than one.
True. Mr. fucking Peter fucking Bone has been found guilty, as it were, by the Parliamentary Standards Committee. They've upheld 5 allegations of bullying and 1 of sexual misconduct, which sexual misconduct I don't think quite explains what's going on here. He apparently flashed his erect penis at a colleague, repeatedly pressured them to give him a massage in his office, and then when they were in, I think, Spain on some international trip thing, locked the person in his bathroom.
Excellent. Love it. Brilliant. Excellent work, team. The Tories really know how to start a party, don't they?
The party of family values, everybody.
It's true. Back to basics, guys. We haven't quite had our Stephen Milligan moment yet. It's coming, though. I feel it. Fingers crossed we'll get a Stephen Milligan moment.
I mean, there are dozens of Tory MPs who have been found to be engaged in all manner of fuckery.
I mean, so many of them. And the fact that one of them's called Bone, one of them's called Pincher. Like, the jokes write themselves. Armando Iannucci, just out of a job forever. He's never getting a job ever again. Politics is too funny. It's too on the nose. It's too self-satirical for Armando Iannucci to say anything about it. There was a James O'Brien tweet about this. I hate to bring it back to JOB every single time, but it was the kind of tweet that just showed me that he's just a completely unserious person. Where he said in response to this, "It's notable how much of the period in which the Conservatives failed to investigate Peter Bone coincided with the party being led by a man who held accountability for himself and his allies in complete contempt. These Peter Bone accusations were first raised in 2013.
Yeah.
So this is not a Boris Johnson problem. This guy is obsessed. He's obsessed with Boris Johnson, right? Fair enough. Boris Johnson was rubbish. He was awful. I'm not saying that he's good. But this is a Conservative Party problem, right? Does he forget? Did he completely forget? In 2017, we literally had the dirty dossier in which there was 36 Tory MPs who'd been accused of sexual misconduct. In that dossier, so much so, it had to be a mass cabinet reshuffle in response to it by Theresa May of, the decade prior, all these accusations when they were from, including many of the people who are still high-flying members of the Conservative Party today who were on that list. We only knew about that because it was leaked by Guido Fawkes, of all things. And he says, well, actually, it's Boris Johnson. He's the one who ended politics, right? Politics started in 2016. Brexit broke Britain. It's the myopic nonsense that comes out of these incredibly politically incurious morons, where they're just like, I can't believe that politics only just got broken now. You think that the MPs in Westminster weren't all incredibly morally compromised individuals before 2016? How's anybody missed the fact that our MPs are just morally contemptuous?
Literally, Expenses Gate happened before 2016.
Cash for honours.
That's been forgotten. That's been totally fucking forgotten.
Cash for honours. So we have cash for honours, right? Because obviously there's this pullback on Lords reform from Labour. I talked about it the other day, and obviously there was a big hubbub around Johnson and Truss appointing new people for the House of Lords, right? Of course, I had the same criticisms. Boris Johnson appointing people who weren't fit for peerages at all, Liz Truss appointing people after 44 days, and people responded to this like, oh, I can't believe the House of Lords has fallen into disrepute. I'm like, now it's fallen into disrepute. Just completely forgetting cash for honours, just forgetting about all the kinds of people who are already in the House of Lords. Alan fucking Sugar.
Well, not just that, but the fucking Norman Tebbit is still a member of the House of Lords. Literally, the infamous Tebbit test, as it were. The idea that if you're a person of Indian or Pakistani heritage, who would you support in cricket, England or India/Pakistan, right? Which was a racist thing. Which, by the way, was from an interview with the LA Times, bizarrely enough. Which was literally kind of the hallmark of British intellectual racism for a very long time. He's still in the House of Lords now, today, and has been for the last 30 years nearly. The idea that it was 2016 that fucked everything up. And if we just went back to the good old days of 2012, when the government were just starving people to death for being poor, everything would be fine.
They get to the point, well, actually, the real bad part is where we have the man as prime minister who has the bad vibes and the floppy hair, right? That's the point at which politics becomes compromised in this country, is when the floppy hair bad man comes in, and not indeed the litany of corruption that's gone on behind closed doors in Westminster amongst all parties, predominantly, of course, the Conservative Party, but all of the parties in Westminster just are corrupt to the core.
Exactly, not exclusively. We must remember that Peter Mandelson, again, another member of the House of Lords, formerly in the British Cabinet, sacked for taking an undisclosed loan from the Paymaster General, and then was re-established as a fucking Labour cabinet member years later. Also was pictured at the birthday party of one Jeffrey Epstein.
Alistair Campbell, the man of the dodgy dossier himself. Being able to launder his reputation in his multiple podcasts, which, may I remind everybody, are paid for and sponsored by and distributed by a company set up by the highest paid staff member of the public broadcaster, Gary Lineker, just pumping centrist propaganda into 45-year-old Guardian readers' brains. There's no consequences. Like ModFX points out in chat, we had World War I and II, then the Cold War, then the Berlin Wall, then text missing, and then Brexit, and that's how liberals like compartmentalize history. That text missing is like, it's like the Fukuyama period where
exactly.
history completely ended the entire period.
Yeah. And then 2012 happened, the peak of British existence, the Olympic Games there. Then Brexit happened, and that's like, it was 9/11 for middle class is what it was.
It really was. It literally was 9/11 for the middle classes. That's what it was. Because we both agree, right? We both would have remained in the European Union. Yes. But just Trump and Brexit as political phenomena, this growth that had come out of the political entropy in the post-financial crisis era, right?
Well, exactly. This is the way to look at it, right? Liberals view Trump and Brexit as the disease. And it's not. Those were the symptoms, the visible symptoms of the disease. They were the rash on the skin. What actually is the problem was the fucking cancer at the heart of the body politic, which has been allowed to metastasize for the last nearly 50 years now.
Yeah, almost 50 years. Yeah, you're absolutely right. From the Chicago school till now. But you're absolutely right. They are indeed a symptom. They want to return to normality rather than creating a new normal, because these people are self-centered, really and truly, and just want to forget about politics. But John McTernan was saying that it was a good thing that the miners' strikes were defeated by Thatcher. This is a guy who was like an advisor to Tony Blair, right? High up in the Labour Party echelon, saying that the miners' strikes were good that they got defeated. And I posted this Eddie Dempsey quote in response. It was discussion of the kind of working class malaise that led to the Tommy Robinson types, that led to the rise of the EDL and the BNP as Blair was failing the working classes in post-deindustrialisation. He said that these people are united by their hatred of the liberal left, and they are right to hate them. These are the people who've seen their industries taken away, who've had their Labour Party taken over, and they're now being talked to like they're the scum of the earth.
Well, exactly, yeah, absolutely. The likes of McTernan have learned nothing. They only see the symptom, which is Brexit, and they forget that things like the destruction of the miners' strike, the tearing down of the communities that once existed in those areas, the economic prosperity that those things brought, was the reason that Brexit was even possible. Because no healthy society does something like Brexit. No healthy society elects someone like Trump or Boris Johnson or whatever, right? That's the sign of a very, very sick society, a society that has core problems. No, like tinkering around the edges nonsense, like the shite that Keir Starmer's suggesting. We're talking root and branch reform. There needs to be a clean out of the body politic. If you have cancer, chemotherapy is the only option. Just trying to pray the cancer away or just taking homeopathy isn't really going to get it done.
Yeah, changing your diet, doing more exercise, because this is going to cause another by-election, right? Because we just have a by-election. Actually, I'm going to be coming up soon. Actually, the Tamworth by-election's happening very soon.
Just down the road from me. Love it.
Yeah, the Tamworth by-election, which is to replace Chris Pincher, the man whose sexual misconduct allegation brought down Boris Johnson, right? Where there's the Pincher scandal that led to all of the resignations.
I wonder if Labour can pinch that seat off the Tories.
I think they probably will. I think it's these seats. I forget where Peter Bone is.
Honestly, if they lose that seat, he had a massive majority. It was like 20,000 or something ridiculous. Like if they lose that seat, in strong Tory area, they're fucked. They're actually
Yeah,
fucked.
it's Jova. It's like fully Jova.
Yeah, honestly,
it is
that might be the end of Rishi Sunak.
Wellingborough
it
and
could.
Rushton, which is
Yeah.
which it is in Northamptonshire. It does have a large majority, but it's
Well,
not.
what are
It's
the
not.
numbers?
It can be overturned. It's a 36-point majority, and considering that the swing looks like it'll be about 30%, it might actually be somewhat competitive in that
Which
seat.
is, again, it really shouldn't be, because
It shouldn't be. Yeah.
even if that kind of seat's in play at the next election, the Tories are done.
Oh yeah,
Honestly,
100%.
they're in genuine wipeout territory. Like,
Oh, they are. They fully are.
I've been skeptical of all of these things where it's like, oh, the Tories might not even be the opposition party and blah blah blah. But actually, if you given the numbers, and you would expect a certain bounce back, we are mid-term of a government. You're bound to have bad numbers, but I don't see how they're going to turn it around. I don't see what policies they can possibly dredge up that are going to do this for them.
But there's a potential, actually, given there's now loads of by-elections, because not only we'll have this Chris Pincher in Tamworth, but also there's going to be a recall petition for Scott Benton MP. You know, that Blackpool North MP who got stung accepting money to ask questions in Parliament?
Yes.
That guy.
Yeah.
There's going to be a recall petition for him because he had a suspension of over 7 days from the Commons. So there might be even more by-elections come next year at this point. And the Tories might lose all of them.
Genuinely, they might do, and that'd be fascinating. Yeah, I don't understand how some of it works though, because like Ian Paisley Jr. took a free holiday from the Sri Lankan government and then started asking questions about Sri Lanka in Parliament, and he was cleared. Like, does it have to be literally money? Like, because that's really obvious what took place. That was worth like fucking 40 grand. That holiday is ridiculous.
I mean, if we're going to sit here and list things that the Paisley family have gotten away with, they'll be here for a while.
Yeah, save Ulster from sodomy. Still my favourite campaign of all time.
There's a very reasonable assumption that people have that the Conservative Party are never dead. They're never gone. They always have a way of being able to stick around. They're like,
well, to be fair,
they're like in metaphorically like cockroaches. And I'm not trying to dehumanize them. I'm talking about the ways in which cockroaches are the species that survive all the mass extinctions.
Well, to be fair,
they have longevity.
Just like the cockroaches, the history is on their side. They are still here. They shouldn't be. Yeah. They've survived scandal after scandal. They've avoided some massive landslides. Blair wiped them out in 97. They were absolutely devastated. He had 120, 140, whatever it was, majority. Massive numbers. And they were able to just about cling on, just about survive.
100%. Yeah, they continually survive these quote-unquote mass extinction events. And there's this kind of, that's a very reasonable perceived wisdom on that one. But I think this one, I think this is the one. I think this is the one where they truly end. They are so completely divided in a way they weren't even in 1997. They not only that, they've also lost businesses. Once you see like all of because the donors didn't abandon them in the Blair years, the donors are abandoning them now. Keir Starmer's changed the Labour Party so fundamentally from what it should be that it's really worrying if you're a Conservative Party activist just how much that they could be beaten by, and not just in the short term because they failed, but in the long term because of the changing political status, because of the changing voter demographic they're going for. Like, they go on, it's all just culture war stuff now. Their main voter base is actually just older people. Like, you look at the young, any demographic below 65, even like pre-boomers, like the 50 to 65 bracket, even they say they're going to vote Labour. The only bracket that say they will vote Tory are over 65, right? A bunch of aging boomers who have very kind of set opinions about certain things, who still remember the winter of discontent, and will just use that as an excuse to continue voting Tory forever. That's going. Their reputation as being the party of business, that's going. Their reputation as being a united party that can put on a front for an election, that's dead and buried. Their record at fiscal competence, of economic competence, it's completely eradicated in a way that it never was with Black Wednesday. Black Wednesday was like one moment where they failed. They've literally had 13 years of ripping the country apart from the bone, and people genuinely have turned against it. Boris Johnson was this kind of weird period where they decided to actually start spending money on stuff, and then he got ousted for being one of the most corrupt prime ministers we've ever had. And then Liz
True.
Truss crashed the economy again. And now
Yeah.
Rishi Sunak might be heading into a recession. Like, I cannot overstate just how the confluence of Conservative failure has led to this point where they might actually be done, like, for real this time.
I do genuinely hope you're correct in that. It might allow a space for a more progressive Labour Party to emerge without the fear of Thatcherite destruction, maybe. But what I will say is that, as with the Liberals diagnosing the symptoms and not the core problem, they thought that the thing that divided them was Brexit. They thought that Europe was the big dividing issue, as it had been in the 1990s, right? They were living in John Major's era, but, 15 years, 20 years too late. That wasn't the thing that was really the core problem. They could stick around with people like Ken Clarke. I mean, literally, it was the official government position, wasn't it, to remain in the European Union, because they understood the economic impact of that. They thought that's what divided them, and it wasn't. What ultimately is the core problem, and why they're now working on just culture war issues, is because they realise fundamentally that the Conservative project is over.
It is over.
And there's no intellectual integrity or inventiveness in the modern Conservative movement, certainly in the UK, and it seems very much in the Americas as well, to rejuvenate what conservatism is. And so they're trying to work on a playbook from 50 years ago in today, and it doesn't work. It clearly doesn't work. They can't argue from the position of, look at this thing we've created, because everyone fucking hates the thing they've created. So they just go, look, trans people, scary brown people at the border. And that really doesn't get it done when your local school is shit and your fucking post office is closed. And the transport system's fucking collapsing and the health service is collapsing. You can't just point to immigrants.
Yeah, the neoliberalism really did kill them. It absolutely rotted them from the inside. Like, there's this huge difference between conservatives. Because conservatives in the UK and conservatives on the continent are completely different parties, right? Even regular kind of conservative parties, they may like it when everything is marketized, but they don't just stop spending on things because they want to just like fucking annihilate the public sector.
Well, neoliberalism fundamentally was not conservative.
No, it wasn't.
It was capitalist progressivism, if that makes sense. It was capitalist hyper I don't know what you would call it, like momentum or whatever, right? It was speed running capitalism into the fucking ground. It was never about keeping the integrity of a nation together. It was never about looking after the interests of the people of a place, which in theory at least conservatism was about. It was always a little bit sketchy, but that was a kind of one nation conservatism that the Tories had been running on for a long time and had been incredibly successful with for fucking 300 years. And then along comes Thatcherite, Reaganite economics, and all of a sudden they've turned into these rabid fucking beasts who just want to fucking feast on the poor. They're not just determined to be the rich at the expense of poor people. They want to destroy poor people. They fucking hate poor people, and poor people are the majority of a country you live in.
Yeah, literally 100%. Like,
so it's not. They stopped being conservatives 50 fucking years ago, and now they're trying to be like, vote conservatives. Where are the conservatives here? I see fascists. I see neoliberal ghouls.
That's right. There's like a very tiny amount of them are like the remaining like dregs of one nation conservatism, and then the other 2/3 of it are like absolute like downright fascists like Suella Braverman and national looters, people who are only there for their career prospects and to be able to get jobs in industry once they finish. That's it. Like there's very few kind of Charles Walkers left sticking around in the party. Why would they stick around? Why wouldn't they stick around in a party as completely ridiculous as that? And the thing that really, really actually will bury them, is the fact that Labour are now the Conservative Party. Labour are marketing themselves as the new Conservative Party. As like the Conservative Values Party. They may not be like economically what the Conservative Party were, because they're actually basically just a neoliberal party, really and truly. But they're marketing themselves as the party of the conservation of Britain. Like hence why they got rebuilding Britain's future, whatever it is. Yeah.
Well, I've got no particular problem with that. And this, by the way, the thing I'm about to outline, I'm not trying to say we do like a Nazbol thing. Obviously, that's disgusting. But the idea of having not nationalist in the fascist sense, but a kind of civic nationalist adage to socialism, for me, works perfectly well. I've got no problem with genuinely taking a kind of almost unabashed pride in being from the place you are and using that to stoke your socialism.
Hey there, if you enjoyed the video, make sure that you like and leave a comment. That helps the video out in the algorithm. If you subscribe and ring the bell, it'll let you know when I go live. I stream every day on YouTube and Twitch. You can also follow all of my socials down in the description. And if you want to support me in a more financial manner, there's a join button for membership to just 99p to be a member on YouTube, as well as a Patreon, and there's some merch there as well. And hopefully I'll catch you on the next video. Take care.